everybody can hear me good and well. I'm sorry about the noise. I'm in the Baja today, and I got one of my wheel bearings repaired, but I don't know if there's another going out, or we noticed some of my tire wear was it's got all terrains on it, and the little contact patches wore at a slant. I don't know if it was because of the bad wheel bearing or what, but we moved the tires around, rotated them, and put them on opposite sides, and it kind of sort of barely helped, but it's still doing it. So I apologize. I don't know what else to do other than try straight tires off of my Impreza, because the Outback ones in Caitlin's new car, the bolt patterns are different. They went to the Ford and Dodge and Toyota 5x4.5, so I can't use them to kind of test to see if it's my tires. But anyways, all that aside, I'm in the Baja. I'm on the way to Macomb, where my mom's in an ICU right now, and it gave me a good opportunity to talk about some more about being a good man versus being a nice one. I've listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson, and not because of, let's just say I agree with a lot of it, because that was how I was raised. It's not that I've found some new meaning in life by listening to Jordan Peterson and suddenly I finally get it or something. But I feel like a lot of guys would, and much to the benefit of women. Okay? I don't understand the sudden attack from women's sides of Jordan Peterson, because the man is not a misogynist. Okay? And if more men followed and listened to Jordan Peterson, the world would be a lot better place. Women's lives would be a lot better. I feel like women would not be forced. They'd be allowed to, of course, and he says it. They'd be allowed to go work and chase careers and succeed and achieve and everything else. But they wouldn't be forced to, because men would be stepping up to the plate as well. Basically, humans as a whole would be doing a lot better for themselves. And when half of society that's been half-assing it this whole time as of late in modern culture, if they stopped half-assing it and actually put in the effort to be better people, then the other half that were still doing the work, putting work in to keep everything together, their lives would be a lot easier, okay? So it's a trickle down and trickle up effect. The same thing we say about arms, like guns, and self-defense. The more regular society is allowed to defend itself, the easier it is on the police and law enforcement, and they don't have to be militarized and go, extremes for law and order, because most of your everyday crime is mitigated, prevented, and then even when it still happens, the people are allowed to defend themselves. So the same thing goes with men in society. If they stepped up to the plate and did their job, then women would have it a lot easier. And then if they did still decide to go chase careers and everything else, they'd be even better off for it. This is coming from a person, a man, I was born disabled. My lungs weren't even finished developing when I was born. I was not a premature baby. I was 8.5 pounds. I was a big boat anchor with a big fat head, okay? Haven't gained a lot of weight since, clearly. But I was a chunk. But look, my lungs weren't fully developed. And now I've got congenital scoliosis that I inherited from my mom's side. My mom is in the ICU right now trying to breathe. And it's not COVID. This is the shit we have to deal with. So, I worked my whole life. I was trans-abled. Get it? And I think that's why it burns me up, seeing these people that are healthy, right? And they just half-ass it. I don't understand it. I'm like, man, if I was built like you, I would have been overseas busting tail after 9/11. With my brother, I would have been a master mechanic by now, making 40, 50 an hour sitting in my house with a shop built. Or maybe some more land with a shop there, that way I have to leave and go home and shut her down at 5 o'clock, right? Come home to my wife and actually leave work and not have at my house. But that is not the card that I was dealt, but I made do. And I don't understand it. And then when people like Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate, which is a little bit more blunt, but comes out telling men to grow up here and do their job in society and lead, they catch slack. I just don't understand it. I was working disabled without disability pay or coverage, never even applied until about 7 years ago for the medical coverage, and was still worked. Was working in the house when my grandmother had breast cancer. Was the only reason I didn't have a job at the time. I was full time at the house, and I was working there, fixing cars. After 3 back surgeries, a neck fusion, and a 30% lung capacity. So I just, y'all got to do better. Jordan Peterson ain't wrong, okay? It ain't society and capitalism and all for all of its faults that's keeping you down. It's you. It is you. And any lack of money and financial gain that has been incurred on my life was my fault. Mine. 99% of it was me. I could have done more in school. I couldn't do the algebra-based math stuff, but I did great in other subjects. I could have done a lot more, but I couldn't train my focus and stay focused long-term in classroom environments. That's on me, man. And I own it. And that's part of being a man or a woman, an adult as a whole. Now, and the reason that I got on this on the way to Mom and Dad's house to ride with him to Macomb to sit in the ICU is this. If you cannot handle normal life, what do you think you're going to do when your wife, if you ever finally get married, is struggling just to breathe? And you got to handle bills. You got bills to pay or you'll lose your house. You gotta still handle, life goes on, okay? And you can blame capitalism. Oh, if I didn't have to work to keep a roof over our head, then, whatever, then it wouldn't be that bad. What do you think animals do? This isn't capitalism. Do you think that wolves are capitalists? But what do you think happens if they don't go out for the hunt? They starve to death. This isn't something that mankind invented. This is just life. It's common sense. Okay? Now, man has figured out ways to make it easier. I mean, for God's sake, you live in a country, or maybe you're not in the U.S., you live in a world, if you're anywhere in the first or second world, where you can literally get in a vehicle that you did not spend your life building through your own labor. You might have had to work to pay for it. And maybe you don't even have a car. You can walk down the street to the store to get food that you didn't grow and not know an iota about farming. And it shows some of y'all. Because of capitalism. Because of capitalism. Because people like you saw a need. Hey, slavery is illegal now. What are we going to do to plow these fields? I got an idea. Did you see that? You remember when they were using steam engines to, pull trains? What if we did that, but like real small with plows? Technology. Necessity is the mother of invention. But if you sit around in the depths of your depravity without putting in the effort, nothing happens. Bash capitalism. Bite the hand that feeds you. It has problems. Families have problems. You don't go lock the doors and burn the house down with a minute, do you? Because that's essentially what's being asked of society. Capitalism has problems. So we just want to burn it all down and get what? Get what? If you can't survive in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the woods, off of the trees and berries and the animals in the field. Some of y'all refuse to eat animals, so really I don't know what you're going to do. But if you won't do that, then I don't know what you're asking of society. Exactly, I really don't. Be a man. And I'm not saying it's solely man's responsibility, but I was addressing men. Be a man. Females, be a woman. Be an adult. Be a self-respecting and self-responsible. You gotta take some responsibility for your own security and for your own food and your own livelihood and your own survival. It's not my job. It's nobody else's job. Okay? Everybody out there that's anti-gun or anti-self-defense guns, at least, they're not anti-gun. They just want everybody to be disarmed and then pay for people to be armed and do their bidding. I'm not down for that, especially when the same people are out there burning the city down, complaining about the police, corruption, and abuse. I'm like, well, you get what you get. What do you expect? You raise a bunch of lawless a-holes in urban environments where everybody's disarmed, gun culture's dead, and respect for your neighbors, whether you like them or not, is dead. And then you get a select few of them, and then you train them and arm them. What do you think is going to happen? Down here, nobody get. I mean, yeah, some of them, but for the most part, Nobody gets a power trip with a gun and a badge. You know why? It's not out of the ordinary. Everybody's got one. The only difference is you got a job. You get a $40,000 a year salary. Other than that, you're just like everybody else. You give somebody that wasn't raised in a society near guns and firearms and self-defense at all, and they think they're freaking Superman. They think they're just God's gift to humanity. And they get on a freaking power trip. They get a God complex. We're getting treated with a little more respect down here where I live. Because the men haven't given up their place as responsible leaders, and even when they do, it's a minority of the population. It's anecdotal. It's not the majority. You've got a circular issue of men not respecting themselves and then not respecting women. Men with no confidence, not having any luck with women, and then becoming bitter towards women. You got single moms who, for good reasons obviously, have bitterness towards their baby daddies, but all they teach their children is more and more hate. And then they grow up, they learn more about hate than they do forgiveness, or at the very least tolerance. And they get what they get, and it teaches a cycle also of, well, me and your dad didn't work out, so I hate his guts. And then they act surprised when hateful baby becomes hateful young adult, and then ditches them when it's no longer convenient for them to be friends with their mom or dad. So, and they act surprised. It's like, whoa, what did you expect? You expected better when you teach that as soon as somebody is no longer convenient or working out for you, that it's okay to hate their guts, sabotage them. Cycle. I'm not blaming single moms, but there are a lot of single dads out there probably leading the suicide rates because it's character murder. It's not homicide, it's character homicide. The law helps y'all do it, but y'all rob them blind, strip them of everything they got. There's no incentive to work. Whatever you make, bigger income is going to get stolen out from under you. What's the point then, I'm not saying don't support your kid, but look, y'all are fighting for abortion rights. Good for you. Well, fatherhood rights. Why is it your body, your choice until you decide to keep it, but then it's not your choice. You decided to keep it, but then it's his responsibility for 8 years. But if he wants to keep it, you tell him no, that 9 months, you're going to just go ahead and kill it, so you don't have to deal with it for 8 months. It's funny how that works. Maybe men dropped the ball, which caused it. I don't believe in fatherless homes, but I do believe that there are some homes better off without the pair together. But that don't mean you gotta hate each other's guts and not work together. But no, y'all let the state get involved that way. You could financially ruin the other party and you get what you get. problem being or not stepping up, and it gave a void for government to fill, and they have made this problem far, far worse. No fault of divorce should have never been a thing. I mean, frankly, I don't know why the state's involved in it anyway. But now it has to be, because so much of the finance and all this other lawyer jargon it is. So, it's the state is just, and there's usual foobar out everything, the way they do everything else. Teach men not to rape, so women get a free pass to do as they wish. Well, I wish that single moms would teach their sons not to rob people and everything else, so my male self could wear my Christmas gift for my wife wherever I want. But that's not the reality that we live in, and whose fault is that? And then if somebody retaliates, or I pull my Ruger out and shoot somebody for trying to beat me down and steal my watch. Oh, he ain't doing nothing, he was a good kid and they just murdered him and this and that. Well, I'm just a single mom and you shot my son and this and that. Well, you know what? There again, you get what you get. Maybe it is the father's fault for not stepping up. But when the father's not around, guess what? Somebody's got to step up. And it's kind of, unfortunately, either be you or somebody like me. And sometimes it ain't the way that's preferable. I think all men should step up, though. And frankly, if you see somebody that's trying to raise one without a dad in its life, then you step in. It might be your sister's kids. It might be your cousin. It could be anybody. There's way too many male adults that ain't men, and they need to step up. And you know what? You might even find you a good woman that's attracted to somebody with some common sense. And they might not even have a kid, but you know what? They can definitely see making some babies with you. Be the man. I'm gonna talk more about it. There are a lot of different avenues we can go down on this. But I had a good role model. I had many good role models. And if you can't handle normal life and be a man, you ain't gonna handle the real stuff. I'll tell you right now. There ain't nothing wrong with emotion and crying and everything else. You gotta do it at the right times. And you still gotta handle business. You can cry in the middle of battle, but as long as you don't throw down and give up, that's all that matters. There ain't no room for that. Men have been doing that for way too long. And society has just next to started falling apart for it. It can't afford for y'all to sit this one out much longer. I gotta step up.